You could look 10 times more confident, athletic, and attractive if you just fix this one thing that most people ignore. Let me show you one simple exercise that can change how you feel and how you look without going to the gym or using any weights. What's up guys, it's Godrosi from Gymnastics Method, and in this video I'm going to talk about the inverted row, the neglected and underrated exercise that many people skip or don't do properly. I will talk about the prerequisites, the technique, and I'll show you the best progressions, how to build it up, and how to get insane, wide and strong back, and how to get chest to bar pull-ups later. But real quick before we move on, if you want to work with me or join my community and want to have same results as Sabi, Danny, Rachel or Nora, check out the links below and let's get started today. So first, let's talk about the prerequisites. The most important one is the scapula movement and control. I made a separate video about the scapula movements and exercises, but I will show you the specific ones to the inverted rows. As you know, the scapula motions are elevation, depression, adduction, abduction, and lateral and medial rotation. And for the inverted rows, we'll need these two, depression and adduction. That's basically a shoulder depression and retraction. In this motion, you really need to imagine that there is like a piece of paper that you want to pinch between your scapulas. Same as I have this cable here. I want to pinch it and retract the shoulders. So you can practice this motion in standing like I did, and I will show you two preparatory exercises that you can do before you do any progressions. So the first exercise is the scapula adductions on all fours. So basically you don't need any bars or rings to do this. You just sit down to the floor, fingers looking backwards, and you just need to lift up your hips and get into this passive position. And from here you have to do the depression and adduction. That's the key movement. You can separate it in the beginning, depress, adduct, and you always have to hold the upper end point for at least 1 or 2 seconds and then come down. If you have better shoulder mobility, you can lift your hips up more and perform the exercise like this. It's just an option. You don't really have to do it if your shoulder mobility doesn't let you. You can do it this way as well. And I suggest to do 10 to 15 reps and then 15 to 30 seconds hold, which you can do in a rear push-up position. The second variation, which is more similar to the exercise that we will do, so if you have access to the rings or bar, I suggest to do this one. So you do it in hanging. It's the same motion, depression, adduction. So make sure not to bend your arms and only work through the scapula motion. So depression, adduction, and do 10 to 15 reps like this, holding the upper end point for 1 to 2 seconds, and then hold the last one for 15 to 30 seconds. The third variation is when you do it on the rings. I think this is the best because you can move your arms freely. Make sure to not bend your arms and work only from the scapulas. And here you have to hold your whole body as in a reverse plank position, but you're in hanging. But make sure to squeeze your glutes, your deep back muscles, and focus on the two movements that you can mesh together into one movement, because that's what you will need in the inverted rows as well. So now you know the most important prerequisites and you're ready for the technique. There is not much to say here other than what I told you before, the scapula motion, and there are two important key points. They are after the pre-activation. So once you have the depression and adduction, you have to pull from the arms, obviously. And the first key point here is to drive your elbows right next to your body. So not to the side, right next to your body. And the second is to pull the elbows behind the body. So the best way to do this is to imagine that you're in a really narrow space. You're grabbing the bar or the rings, and there's a wall here and a wall here. So you just do this motion. You can't drive the elbows to the side. That's one cue that you can use. And the other is you want to touch something behind your body. So there is a wall even behind you, and you want to touch that wall with your elbows. So this is how you engage the back muscles fully. This is how you will reach the peak contraction in your back muscles. If you have tight shoulders, you can even feel the chest stretching. So keep that in mind. It's the same as you want to stretch the chest muscles. And this is the most important prerequisites to chest to bar pull-ups. So I always say that before you do any pull-ups, do the inverted rows with this technique, because that will allow you to do the chest to bar pull-ups. It's going to be really similar motion. And most people can't do the chest to bar because they are lacking this technique and they skip this exercise. Because actually you can do this the wrong way. So many people skip the scapula activation and they do full range of motion inverted rows, but the shoulders are protracted. So this is the biggest mistake that people usually make, that they pull from the arms, they have a pretty good shoulder mobility, so they can do the full range, but the shoulders are protracted and not retracted. So if you take only one thing away from this video, it's this. This is the difference between chest to bar pull-ups and no chest to bar. So you have to practice the full range of motion, retraction, and basically you have to feel the stretch in your chest. And now you know the truth, and we'll take a look at the progressions and how to build this up. The first progression is the inverted row in about 70 degrees or in standing. The way I usually get into this position is getting into the upper end point where you can just stand and there is no resistance basically, and get into the starting position and implementing the technique. And that's the best way to do it, because if you just try it this way and you will start pulling, you will just step forward and you know it's not working. So just test this position first and then you come down. So this is the most important progression. Don't skip it. Many people just want to do immediately the elevated leg because they see that that's the hardest and I will do it. But set your ego aside and you really want to learn the technique with the easiest one. No ego and build up the technique, because that's the only difference now. If you're watching this video and if you want to have chest to bar pull-ups and if you want to have muscle ups and high pull-ups, the only difference between me and you, I did everything from scratch like this. So this is the time now to learn the technique. No resistance, no intensity, just technique. So you get into the starting position in a straight body position, passive hang, and you just practice scapular depression, adduction, and then you pull in a narrow space and you want to touch the wall behind you with your elbows. And the other checkpoint is that you have to touch the side of your chest with your fingers here. If you do it this way, you want to come all the way here. And this is basically over securing the range of motion, because if you imagine that if this is a bar, I basically just break the bar, okay? That's why I recommend practicing with the rings, because you can overdo the range of motion, but that's gonna make the peak contraction and that's gonna make the difference, okay? So once again, you can mash up the two movements and pull with confidence next to your chest and do controlled reps, okay? So it's really low intensity. You have to focus on the technique. Do up to 30 reps. You don't want to do 10, 15. You want to do more and you really feel the back muscles. The second progression is the 45-degree inverted row. No magic here. We'll change the body position to increase the intensity, but that's the key. When we increase the intensity, the harder it's going to be to do the right technique. So that's why you have to really focus on the technique with the first progression, and after that it automatically has to happen. So from here we basically just walk down to like 45 degrees. It's going to be harder to maintain even the starting position, and then it's going to be harder to pull as well, but you really want to do nice and clean technique. So this is a good transition to the next ones. Aim for at least 15, but here as well you can go up to 30 reps. The third progression is the horizontal rows with bent knees. So basically, we're gonna get under the rings and the bar, get into a horizontal position. You have to maintain a straight body position, but we basically decrease the leverage of the body. So it's gonna be a little bit easier, and we're gonna do the same technique, full range of motion. And here I have to tell you, don't want to do slow reps. It's gonna be hard to pull yourself up, so just make sure to put in the effort and do the full range of motion. It's gonna be like a ball. You just throw up a ball, it's gonna be fast, and then it stops and it comes down. So the concentric phase can be more dynamic, and you can touch the rings or the fingers and then control the eccentric. So you don't have to fall down the same way, but make sure to explosively pull, get the checkpoint, get the full range, and then control descent, okay? And from here, it's gonna be the same technique, even in the pull-ups later. The fourth progression is the horizontal inverted rows with extended knees. So it's gonna be fully straight body, under the bar and rings, and do the same technique. This is pretty intense. It's gonna be harder to do the full range of motion, but that's why I told you, make sure that you have the right technique, the right neuromuscular connections with the easy ones, and then build up the reps, build up the strength, and you'll be able to do it this way as well. And here, I'll tell you one extra that will turn on when you just hold the starting position and your whole body during the entire movement. You will feel the deep back muscles and your glutes, because it's gonna be hard even just to hold your body straight. So it's not gonna be only the big muscles that you will see on your back, but also your deep back muscles that are responsible for the right posture. So make sure to maintain the straight body position, do the right technique, and from here you will really feel your posture getting better. Aim for 10 to 15 reps in 3 sets. And the fifth and last progression is the elevated leg inverted rows. So you need to find an elevated surface, a chair at home, or anything that you can put your feet on. And this is kind of an overkill, but that's exactly why we do it. It's going to be the most difficult progression, but if you can do at least 10 reps from these, I guarantee you'll be able to do chest to bar pull-ups instantly. My experience with my students is 15 inverted rows equals minimum with 5 chest to bar pull-ups. So if you can work your way up to 15 reps, 5 chest to bar pull-ups are instantly guaranteed, but only if you do it with the right technique, because many people just get into the rows here and they do reps like this. You see, it's not full range. It's not gonna work. Close your legs, tight and straight body, passive hang, and here, as I said, it's gonna be difficult to really isolate the movement and do it slowly. So you have to mesh together the depression, the adduction, and pulling from your arms in a narrow space, and drive your elbows behind your body and touch your fingers with your chest. And just imagine that you have to pull explosively, stop for a moment, but just for a moment, because that's another mistake that people usually make. They want to do it slowly, but it's not going to work. You have to really put in the effort and pull and then slowly down. It has to be a good rhythm, so you don't want to overdo anything. You don't want to do it too slow, you don't want to stop on the top, and you don't want to do too slow or even too fast rhythm in the descent. So I'll show you just a few reps. 1, 2, 3, and so on. So this is the right rhythm. If you want to do this with me, I have a tempo test on the channel where you will see how I do it, how I count it, so you can do the 10 to 15 reps with me and make sure that you do it the right way. So my recommendation is doing at least 10, but if you can do 15, that's the best. 3 sets and 3 consecutive workouts. So if you train 3 times per week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, if you can do 3 sets of at least 10, but 15 reps, then you'll be set for the pull-ups. Obviously, you can do all these progressions with a bar, but in my experience, many calisthenics parks don't have the different heights of bars. So what they usually have is parallel bars. So I'll show you just a few progressions you can do. Obviously, if you have lower bars, you can do it in a 45-degree angle that you can see on the screen. But if you only have parallel bars, I'll show you two options. The first is kind of like a kids playground version. When you grab the bar with your knees and then you maintain this straight position and you pull yourself up this way. That's a pretty good progression. Or how gymnasts do it when they don't use rings and they want to do the elevated leg progression is you grab the bar. You can do this with bent knees as well, or you just hook your legs like this in a straight body position and do the rows like this. If you want, you can put a towel or an elastic band between the bar and you can do the chest to bar or full range of motion as a checkpoint. So these are two options that you can do in any park which has parallel bars. But if you just grab a pair of rings or a suspension trainer, you can do everything I showed you before. So that was the exercise that is one of my favorites. It's super neglected and underrated. As I said, many people skip it or don't do it or just handle it as a progression exercise for the pull-ups. But it's not. It's actually a really good exercise that works your back in a horizontal movement and not a vertical movement, and it's also a prerequisite. So make sure to do both. If you're a beginner, start with the inverted rows and then do the whole sequence that I showed you, and after that you don't even have to work on the pull-ups because you'll be able to do a few reps immediately and you just have to work on the reps later. So make sure to do this. I hope you liked it and found something new information. And if you want to work with me one-on-one and with my professional team, check out the link, apply to one-on-one coaching and see if you qualify. Or if you want to work at your own pace, check out the other link, join the Gymnastics Method Premium membership, get access to all my programs, tutorials, daily workouts, and much more. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe for more, and now check out the other videos on the end screen.